What's up, guys? Kevin Forbasi here to talk sports to you today. What a crazy couple of days in the sports world, namely in the NBA. A lot of trades going on yesterday. Trade deadline madness galore. Probably the craziest trade deadline I've seen probably in my entire life. I mean, one that comes to mind is when Carmelo was shipped from the Nuggets to the Knicks. That one was wild, but man, yesterday was crazy. It kicks off, last week with Blake Griffin going from the Clippers to the Pistons, Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley going back. And I think going into yesterday, a lot of us thought it was going to be a quiet deadline. Everyone assumed that the Cavs really needed to make a move. I thought they had to make a move to be able to compete in the East and potentially make it to the finals. But not many people thought they were, because it seemed like they're really unwilling to get rid of that Brooklyn pick since they don't have a long-term commitment from LeBron. Maybe the team didn't want to give up any of their assets and was going to be willing to just let the season play out, while Kobe Altman answers the call. And man, he pulled off some amazing trades yesterday, and I'll delve into why. So first off, yesterday morning, news comes that Isaiah Thomas is traded to the Lakers for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance, and training prize also sent to the Lakers, and a first-round pick also sent to the Lakers. And I think this is the rare win-win trade in sports. Now, at the end of the day, there's probably going to end up being a true winner of the trade, but for right now, it looks like it's a win-win on both sides. The Cavs get younger, they get Clarkson and Nance, and while neither of those guys are probably the same type of player as Isaiah and don't have the impact, as badly as Isaiah has been this year, it is a great transition for the Cavs. They get two guys that maybe aren't great defensive players, but they can play, or they have the potential to play a lot better defense than Isaiah ever has. This year, I mean, it's crazy how much Isaiah Thomas has fallen. Last year, he's 5th in the MVP voting, beloved by the city of Boston, and then gets shipped out by the Celtics to the Cavs in the Kyrie Irving trade. And this year, he's really been abysmal. I believe he had the lowest defensive rating in 25 years in the NBA, which is unheard of. He was virtually unplayable. I think in his last game against the Timberwolves, the Cavs won a lot of offense-defense switches. They took him off the floor a lot in overtime because he just couldn't defend. Every single time the Timberwolves came down the court, they would do a pick and roll, get Isaiah Thomas switched on the ball handler, and Jimmy Butler, Jeff Teague, Andrew Wiggins would just take him to the hole and score. And he had really been a big hole in that Cavs team. I mean, nobody really on the Cavs team prior to yesterday was any sort of defensive stopper. LeBron's been a good defensive player throughout his career, but he's tailed off a little bit as he's gotten older. Hasn't put quite the effort into that side of the ball. Jay Crowder, I don't know what happened there with his energy. He was a great defensive player for Boston, not as much this year in Cleveland, and it was really time for a change. But again, I think the trade makes a lot of sense for the Cavs. I'm not really sure why they gave up the first-round pick. Seems like a little bit of a steep asking price, especially when the Lakers have been looking to try and get rid of some of these contracts for a while. It's kind of a tough pill to swallow to have to give up a first-round pick, in addition to giving up presumably the best player in the deal in Isaiah Thomas. But really for the Cavs, the biggest part of this is addition by subtraction. I know that's sometimes an overused word in sports, but in this case, it felt like Isaiah Thomas had really outlived his stay in Cleveland. He was not being a great teammate. He was commenting to the media about all the problems in the organization. I feel like there was a lot of loathing and a lot of disdain for him in the locker room. His teammates just didn't have his respect anymore, or didn't respect him anymore, and it was time for a change. I feel like the entire culture of the locker room had really degraded in the last few weeks, and the Cavs had to do something. And now, without Isaiah Thomas there, when Kevin Love comes back, he'll be the for sure number 2, and I think that's the role that Kevin Love really needs to succeed. When Isaiah came back, Kevin really struggled with where does he get his shots, how am I supposed to play. I think in the previous years when it was Kyrie, Kevin, and LeBron, they're able to make it work because Kyrie was that good of a player that Kevin Love's like, all right, I can take the back seat. But trying to work it out with Isaiah Thomas, who's not quite the player that Kyrie is, was a disaster for Cleveland. And now, so Kevin Love goes back in that number 2 scoring role, which, if you remember, when Kevin Love was the number 2 scorer, was when the Cavs ripped off 18 of 19 earlier in the season, and it looked like they were going to run through the East again. So and then Isaiah comes back. They lose, I think, 13 of their next 19 games, something like that. And so good for the Cavs to get Isaiah off the team. And also a big part of it is now the ball is going to be back in LeBron's hands. You want the ball in the best player in the world, in the hands of the best player in the world. So now LeBron's going to be able to go back to that point guard role. He doesn't have to worry about kind of deferring and switching and you go, now I go. Now it's just LeBron's team again. I mean, and it always was LeBron's team. But Isaiah kind of had this, I need to get my touches. I need to get my shots. I need to get my usage in this game. And there was a little bit of a discord there between the two. Now for the Lakers, I think this is a brilliant move. Yes, do they give up probably the younger players in the deal, maybe a little bit higher ceilings going forward, and Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance? Yes, but the big part about this is that they unload Clarkson's $15 million a year contract. And in doing so, they open an easy path to getting 2 max free agent slots for next year, which is huge, which means they could potentially get Paul George and LeBron James. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm a little skeptical of that happening. I don't know if LeBron will leave a team where he will potentially make his 8th straight finals, 4th straight with the Cavs, to go to a team with a bunch of 21, 22-year-olds. I'm skeptical about that. I don't know if Paul George wants to leave Oklahoma City just yet. I feel like he is enjoying it there, playing with Russell Westbrook. But either way, the Lakers opened all this cap room, got rid of some of the Clarkson bad deal that they had sitting on their books. And now if they stretch Luol Deng's contract and release Julius Randle's cap hold, all of a sudden they can sit at close to $70 million in cap room, can get Paul George and LeBron James. Huge win for them. They still have their core there. They still have Ball, Ingram, Kuzma, Randle. And I think those guys definitely have room to grow. And now they kind of clear up that front court rotation a little bit. You know, they were trying to balance between Nance, Kuzma, Randle, and getting all those guys minutes. Now it's just Kuzma, Randle, and Lopez right now. So Kuzma and Randle really have a chance to blossom throughout the rest of the year. And they don't have to worry about, how is Walton going to balance that rotation there. And I think after that trade happened yesterday, everyone was like, okay, well, there's Cleveland's move for the day. Good move. We'll see how it goes. Some people weren't as big of a fan of it. I was kind of shocked to see it at first. At the end of the day, I think it was the right move for the Cavs. But I think the even bigger storyline of the day was the next trade that the Cavs pulled off. They send out Iman Shumpert to the Kings, Jay Crowder and Derrick Rose to the Jazz, and they get back George Hill and Rodney Hood. Now, George Hill and Rodney Hood aren't stars in this league. They probably never will be, but they're great role players. George Hill has been one of the best shooting point guards in the league in the last 4 or 5 years. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, so he can come in and play kind of that shooting guard type role, but still be a point guard if need be. He can defend both the point guard and the shooting guard, and he loves playing off ball. He played off ball in Indiana with Paul George and Stevenson there. Played off ball last year with Gordon Hayward being the primary ball handler. And I think he's a great fit alongside LeBron James, and he'll bring a little bit more of that defensive intensity that they've been lacking. On the other side, Rodney Hood, again, more youth, more athleticism, great three-point shooter. And if you look at what the Cavs gave up, they gave up Iman Shumpert, who isn't playing and been kind of some discord with the franchise for a while. He wasn't really living up to his potential. Jay Crowder not doing anything nearly as well as he did last year in Boston. And Derrick Rose has just been a washed-up player at this point. So I think looking at those two trades, the Cavs really put themselves in a position to succeed moving forward. They had to make a change, I think. The locker room had just been a complete disaster the past couple of weeks. And, bring these other guys in. Now it's LeBron's locker room again. And really the onus falls on LeBron right now to make this work. You bring in role players. It's not like they're bringing in stars. But it's up to him to make sure these guys fit and they play together. And it's also on Tyronn Lue to some extent too. But LeBron being the star player, he's got to bring them together and they got to figure this out. The Cavs are showing the willingness to make trades and to get his team together so they can make a run into the playoffs. And I also think one of the less talked about things here is that the Cavs were able to make all these trades without giving up that Brooklyn Nets pick. They kind of hedged their bets a little bit. and they still keep that 7th pick, or it would probably fall around the 7th, 8th pick in the draft, in case LeBron does leave, which I think there's a very real possibility he does leave at this point, especially if the season doesn't go as Cavs fans had hoped. The Cavs are able to get younger. Now, do they take on a big contract in Clarkson, who maybe is not worth $15 million a year? Yeah, probably. George Hill isn't probably worth the $19 million a year that they'll be paying him, but I believe his third year is non-guaranteed, so it's only $1 million guaranteed in the third year of the contract. So if the Cavs really want to move on after next year, they could just waive him and not have to deal with his big salary cap burden. So there are ways for them to maneuver out of the salary cap trouble that they've kind of created for themselves. I believe their luxury tax bill is going to go up as a result. But the Cavs have kind of simultaneously gone all in on this season and also hedged their bets for the future, which I think was brilliantly done by Kobe Altman, or some might argue it was just Dan Gilbert in particular. And also, one thing that I thought was kind of cool that the Cavs did, bringing in these young players, they knew that Dwayne Wade's role was going to be reduced. And they went to Wade and said, hey, do you want to be moved? Do you want to go back home? And Wade had a desire to go back to Miami. And they traded him back to Miami for a heavily protected second-round pick that they ended up shipping out in the George Hill and Rodney Hood deal and allowing him to go home. Dwayne Wade has always been a Miami Heat. Even though he went to Chicago last year and he was in Cleveland this year, his heart's always going to be in Miami. He's the greatest player in Miami history. No disrespect to Alonzo Mourning, but Dwayne Wade really changed that franchise and brought them to new heights and helped recruit LeBron there. And he's the greatest player in their franchise history, and it's really fitting that he can go back there. I don't know how many more years he has left to play, but he deserves to finish his career in Miami, where he started it, and it's where he should finish it. And so the Cavs really did right there, and it was surprising to me that they did right by him. But props to them, props to the organization. It sounds like LeBron was actually happy for Dwayne, and LeBron was actually consulted about it. I think when people heard that Dwayne Wade was traded, they're like, oh my gosh, they're blowing up this team, they're turning their back on LeBron. But reports come out that Dwayne Wade and LeBron were both consulted about it, and Dwayne expressed a desire to go back home, especially with the youth movement in Cleveland. So I think that was a great story there. Moving forward, I like the Cavs' chances a little bit better. Are they going to beat the Warriors? Probably not. But their chances of making it back to the finals, I think, have increased dramatically. They still have the best player in the world. Kevin Love's still a great player when he's healthy. And the pieces they brought in, while they maybe didn't get the better players back in the deal, although I believe in the Hill and Hood deal they did, they brought in better fits for their organization. I mean, they got rid of 3 redundant players, and Wade, Rose, and Isaiah Thomas all kind of play the similar style game, driving, they need the ball in their hands, and they replaced it with one in Jordan Clarkson. George Hill can play off ball, Rodney Hood plays off ball, Larry Nance is an athletic guy who doesn't need the ball in his hands. He'll rebound, dunk, and doesn't need touches necessarily to be successful. And also, none of the guys they brought in are great defensive players. I mean, George Hill's a pretty good defensive player, but they got more athletic and they got younger, which is a big deal when you move forward in the playoffs, because they can play defense if they need to. If they can get coached up, when you're athletic and you have that type of length of the guys they're bringing in, all you really have to add into the mix is the effort and a little bit of a defensive scheme, and all of a sudden you can play great defense, or at least good defense for a while. I think where the Cavs were before this deal, they just didn't have that athleticism to be able to play great defense, and the effort also was waning as well. And honestly, the Cavs are going to be able to score with anybody, no matter what. Before or after this trade, they're going to be able to score with anybody. The problem was, can they stop anybody? I mean, even in the big win a couple of days ago against the Timberwolves, they gave up 138 points. And you're not going to win very many NBA games if you're giving up that many points. And the Cavs hadn't been able to stop anybody. Now, are they going to stop people? Maybe not. But maybe they'll make life a little bit more difficult for the other team. And if they can move into the middle defensive rating teams, and maybe they can make more of a run, are they going to be able to defend the Warriors? I don't think so. I mean, this Warriors team is historically dominant. I don't know if many teams can guard them at all, but the Cavs really have positioned themselves in a place where they're probably the front runner now in the Eastern Conference. Sorry, Celtics fans, but I think this is still LeBron's conference for at least one more year. The Celtics have a lot of young pieces, like Gordon Hayward coming back next year, and maybe they're the favorite next year, but I think this is still LeBron's conference. Either way, great moves by the Cavs. What a crazy trade deadline. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And it was so exciting to see all the trades going on, getting all the Woj bombs left and right. It's truly just exciting to see. And I hope that it really lives up to the billing. I hope the Cavs are able to pull this together. And the league's better when LeBron James and company is good and there's a compelling story around them. So I'm excited for the rest of the season. We'll see how these new players fit in Cleveland. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I will probably make another sports recording here pretty soon whenever breaking news comes out about any interesting stories in sports. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for joining me talking sports today.